Good morning, you guys. I am getting ready to fix myself a mug of tea, and then I am headed out to the garden. So today is supposed to be in the 70s and really a beautiful day. Tomorrow our temperatures start dropping, and then we are hitting what is going to be close to record lows for this time of year. So we're supposed to get down to about 24 degrees, and there is no saving any of my annuals really at that kind of temperature. So that will definitely be the end of the gardening season. And, you know, I'm okay with it. I'm ready for fall and Christmas decorations and just maybe a little bit slower pace here for a little bit before we get into next year and start building the greenhouse and then the garden and everything. But it's been a busy week. I have been out in the garden trying to winterize things. We had so many hoses from the watering system we set up this year, so I had to go through and disconnect all of those, get them put away along with the timers. And then I got all of my shade cloths down. If you saw earlier in the year, I accidentally left a shade cloth up last winter and it got collapsed by snow and a huge hole torn in it. So I wanted to make sure I got that stuff taken care of. And so today is just really all I have to do is the harvest. I don't know exactly how much I'm going to get. I think there's a lot of eggplants out there. We'll try and pick some flowers, that kind of stuff. But yeah, just mainly cleaning the garden out. Next week, our temperature is supposed to get back up into the 60s again. This is just a really brief cold snap. And so I am hoping to get out there next week and get all of the dead plants cleaned out and kind of get the garden put to bed for the winter. So you guys, while my tea is steeping, I wanted to show you something I picked this week. I've been picking these cardinal basils all summer to put in my bouquets, but this is the first time that I picked just an entire bouquet of the cardinal basil, and I love it so much. It reminds me of in the spring when you see hydrangea bouquets with just the big old hydrangea blossoms. And I think I will do this again in future because I will be growing this basil from now on. But looking at this and thinking about this basil got me thinking. And I just wanted to encourage you guys, if you ever get the chance to go visit your favorite seed company in person, you should do it because I got those seeds at Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Store in Mansfield, Missouri. We were on vacation in Branson last year, and so we took the chance to drive up there. And when we were checking out, the cashier was asking me what I like to grow in my garden, and I told her I like to grow basil for my bouquets. And she came out from behind the cash register and said, "Let me show you this basil. You're going to want to grow this in your garden." Y'all, I never would have found this if I hadn't gone to the store in person and gotten the chance to talk to somebody there who was really knowledgeable about everything that they have. And so I just think if you get the chance to go to one of your favorite seed companies, you might find your new favorite plant because they know more than you do. They definitely know more than I do. So anyway, that's just a plug for checking out the seed stores in person. But I am going to drink my tea, let it warm up a few more degrees outside, and then we will go harvest everything that we can. Well, you guys, I've got my baskets, I've got my pruners, and it is time to pick everything we possibly can. I kind of forgot I also need to do some protection for my fig trees. I'm kind of, I don't even know what the word I want here is. I'm unsure exactly about this because everything I've read says you wrap them up after they've gone dormant, but we haven't had the kind of weather where they've gone dormant yet. They're still covered in leaves. So I think I may have to wrap them in burlap today and then unwrap them after it warms back up. But if any of you know, let me know because I'm a novice. This is my first year with the fig trees. Look at these little jalapenos. They're definitely too small for chili rellenos or anything like that, but we can use them for something. I think the plants had the ability to do more with these little peppers since we pulled all the other ones off a couple weeks ago. I am very glad that I waited to harvest some of these peppers until now because we are getting some more color on them. Look, Got some red serranos in here. That's great. That'll give us more for our hot sauce. And the ones like this guy, they will finish ripening in the house in just a day or two because they're so little. There are quite a few green ones though as well, so not exactly sure what to do with green serranos, but I'll figure it out because we do not want to waste any of this food. I'm actually really surprised by how well these serrano plants have kept doing, because as the sun has moved more south, they have ended up really shaded. I don't know how well that comes through here, but this Thumbergia, also called black-eyed Susan vine, it has really shaded out these plants because the sun is much more to the south now. That's something I probably need to keep in mind for next year when I'm planting. Make sure I plant things that like shade next to the trellises. There are just so many green serranos on here, and they're very small, but enough for at least a small batch of hot sauce. I'm just going to have to do some research on a green hot sauce. Do any of you have a recipe you like? I've only ever made red hot sauce. I guess I don't really have to be all that careful with the pulling branches off, since these plants only probably have about 36 hours left, and then they're gonna be frozen. Is it just me, or does anybody else ever think about, before the time before we knew what was happening with the weather? I think about, we can just look up on the internet what it's going to be 2 days from now and have some kind of preparation. But I think about people who didn't know. Like, today's this beautiful day. It's going to be 70 degrees and sunny and just absolutely lovely. And then 2 days from now, the high is not even supposed to get out of the 40s with wind chills in the 20s. I just can't even imagine living in a time where that was something that just happened to you and you had no concept it was coming. I've thought in the past about trying to dig up peppers and pot them and take them in for the winter, but this is not the year for that. But it always makes me sad to see all those flowers and things this time of year. No, the plant wants to keep on giving. Here are all of the hot peppers. This is mostly serranos. There are those few little poblanos I got and a few cayennes, but a decent little haul given all we picked a couple weeks ago. I think it's time to move on to the eggplants. I think this is probably going to be my biggest harvest today. We have plenty that are a bit smaller, but some that are nice size. Look at this little guy. I should look and see if there's any recipes for little eggplants. This is a gorgeous one. I'm really glad. Oh, look, I think that was a fasciated blossom. I am really glad I held off on harvesting the little eggplants, because the ones that were little a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, we came out and did that last big harvest. They've grown into much nicer eggplants now. Oh, I see ants crawling all over the eggplants. I don't love that. Go away, guys. Oh, that hurt. Oh, there's aphids on this one too. That's probably what's happening here. The ants are farming the aphids. If you don't know what that means, it's a little bit gross, but aphids poop basically is like a sticky sweet substance, and the ants like to eat it. Guys, my very sad tomatillo plants that I've been treating as if they're basically dead do actually have some fruit on them. Look, isn't that crazy? Just goes to show, sometimes you write off a plant and it still has something left to give. I don't think there's much eggplant over here, but I found a really big one. At least by my garden standards. Y'all, look at this harvest of eggplants. Pretty great for November 8th, huh? On to picking my sweet peppers. This is a gorgeous pepper. I'm really excited that there's several of these. Well, this one's definitely got bug damage. Not sure it's worth taking in. This one's a beauty. Look, another tomatillo. Y'all, we have had a terrible green bean year, but my mom asked me to check and see if there were any because she's really been missing the green beans. And there are some beautiful ones. Not very many, but that one's rather large, but it doesn't feel like it's too big. So maybe we'll actually get a meal worth of green beans out of here. Not quite a meal, but I can still fix these for Mom. I will be sad to see the pineapple sage go. But I brought you guys over here into the older garden area to show you this cluster of tomatoes I found. Kind of hard to see, but this one's actually a big old tomato and it's turning. So maybe we'll actually get to eat this one ripe. You guys, I hope you will bear with me. I lost both of my microphones in the garden this week and I cannot find them. I think they're just goners. So we just have regular volume coming on. You could probably hear that helicopter, but I wanted to show you this squash. I left it out here too long and it's starting to get kind of wrinkly and there's some, I think, mildew on the skin. So this is not going to be good for storage. If I lived on a farm or a little homestead with some pigs or something, I would feed this to my animals, but I think we should be able to peel it and make soup or something with it immediately and it'll still be edible, but it's definitely not going to be good for storage. Luckily, we have plenty of storage squash. This is really interesting. This squash definitely had some bug damage, so it'll be one we want to eat quickly, but it healed over. Like, there's a scab on the plant, and there's several places down here on the bulb as well. I've just never seen a squash do this before, but it's still really nice. This is going to be a lot of food. Y'all, we have talked a lot this summer about how my soil definitely needs some amending and my watering system could use some work. So these pumpkins, when I have seen them grown by other people, are way bigger. So I'm not sure if these are really gonna be good or not, but we'll take them in and we'll try. I have like 3 of them, but it definitely needs to be rubbed down with some vinegar. It's got some powdery mildew on it. So I found this little pumpkin, and it's definitely not going to be edible because this is a winter squash. It doesn't, it's not intended for eating when it's young, like a zucchini or a yellow squash. But I'm wondering, I don't know, its shape might not be right for it, but I was watching Acre Homestead recently and she turned pumpkins into planters, and I'm wondering if I could do something like that with this, and that way it just doesn't get wasted. We might give it a try. It would be worth seeing if it's possible, because I just hate to see it go to waste completely. Well, you guys, my baskets are full. So I'm gonna have to go in and find some boxes, and I think I'm mainly down to checking to see if there are actually any potatoes under those potato plants and harvesting any of the loofahs that are turning brown. There's a lot of really little loofahs on there and they're not going to be worth anything, but I'm going to go see if I can find boxes and gloves, and then we'll see if there's any potatoes that are going to be worth eating. I grabbed a box for my loofahs, so I'm just going to come through here and look for ones that are browning, I guess. I know So I know people pick the traditional loofah that you peel green sometimes for harvesting and getting the loofah skin, but I tried to peel one of these green and it was impossible. I just couldn't figure it out. So I think the green ones are probably just gonna have to stay. I can tell you that they were so hard to peel. I don't really know how many of these we're gonna peel anyway, but we'll harvest what looks like it'll be good. Realistically as well, I don't know how many loofahs 2 people need. I don't know if it's the right call or not either, but like this one is turning brown, and so I've seen where people lay them out to finish drying, so I'm taking the ones that are partially brown as well. I figure we're looking for ones that feel nice and light. Like even this one still feels really heavy, so I know it's full of moisture. One like this is just really light. You can tell it's really hollow and the seeds are starting to rattle inside. So I feel like this is probably a pretty good harvest for 2 people, probably more than we actually need. So even though we're gonna leave a whole lot of these on the plants, I think it's okay. Next year when we plant the right kind of loofah for peeling, I will harvest them all because we can share them with friends and family and things like that. But these that are kind of a bear to peel, we'll just use what we need. All right, friends, you might notice this is not where I planted potatoes this fall. But I noticed 2 days ago when I was out here unhooking all the hoses and everything that there were potatoes coming up. And I think I must have missed some of the potatoes I planted in the spring and they sprouted. So I'm not holding out much hope for any of the potatoes to actually have potatoes just because they didn't do well this fall. There hasn't been a ton of potato. I think this is probably the potato I missed because there are these tiny, tiny little babies. So this is sort of what I'm expecting, is to just find these tiny little things and not really a lot of potatoes. But I'm wondering if I bury some of these little tiny things really deep, if we might find that some of the potatoes come up next year. I really don't know. Yeah. It's interesting. I think that this is what they're growing from, but this is a really nice potato still. It's still nice and firm. I don't know. Maybe it really grew these potatoes. Whatever the case, I won't say no to potatoes. And these in particular feel a bit like free food because I didn't leave them on purpose. So they're just volunteers. These are some of those little tiny ones. But you get enough little tiny potatoes and you get a meal from it. So I will take it. These are also meant to be little potatoes. And so that has me encouraged a little bit as far as when I go to harvest the bigger potatoes I planted, that maybe even if they're not big potatoes, they will be decent little potatoes that we could eat. I guess, are they called new potatoes when you pick them like that? Oh, and I did find my microphone today, you guys. The one I lost a couple days ago, I never found it. So I'm very grateful to have found one of them. I think I knock them off of my clothes just when I'm digging and stuff. If you've been around, you know I tend to lose my microphones out here in the garden fairly frequently. So I stuck it in my hair and I'm hoping that's out of the way and that you can hear me. They're so little. I bet they'll still taste good though, but it's cracking me up. I think that's all the potatoes on this side. There's some more over there that volunteered. So I'll go check because y'all, it may not be a ton, but this is more than I expected from this area. So, you guys, I finished the volunteer potatoes, and here they all are. I'm like, that's a meal of potatoes, something we would have had to buy at the grocery store if they hadn't come up on their own. So, I'm pretty excited about these. Y'all, I don't know if you can hear the bees. I really hope you can. They are so loud today. But there are just so many bees out. I don't know if they have some internal clock that tells them that the frost is coming, but they seem to be in a big hurry to gather up as much nectar and pollen as they can to take home to their hives. So, friends, as you can see, the potato plants are still really lush and healthy, which is not when you are supposed to harvest potatoes. But as cold as we're going to get, everything I've read says that I need to go ahead and harvest them. So I guess we're just going to see what there is in here. There's some other little plants trying to come up too, but I think they're just a little too new to actually give us anything. I'm guessing this is the potato I planted. Yep. So let's try this one. This is one of the bigger plants I planted. Oh, it does have some. Look, you guys. And we can always put these in with the other potatoes. Oh yeah, there's the mushy one I planted. We can always put these in with the other volunteers we had. So far not a whole lot to write home about, but it's still potatoes. Let's take a peek this way and see if we find anything else. Oh, yeah, there's some little ones. I think I got these in the ground, maybe just too late for starters, and then I didn't water them well enough. And so they didn't have time to really grow like they needed to. But any food is better than nothing. So I'm really grateful. And then, like, this is the one I planted. I can tell the ones that just started coming up, their um, their seed potato is still much firmer than the ones that are actually giving us potatoes. That's a tiny little thing. We have one more kind of decent one to go. It's smaller than some of the others, so I'm not super hopeful. Like, I just found this one tiny little potato, and I think that's probably it. So that plant gave us this, which is hilarious. I'm gonna bury it. Oh no, look, it did have one. So, of my actual fall planted potatoes, here's our harvest. It's a little bit hilarious, but we'll eat them and I'm sure they'll taste great. So, as far as food goes, that is the end of the 2025 garden. I feel like this garden has given us a lot this year, even out of the brand new garden area, which clearly was having some soil issues, and our older garden area that just kind of got neglected a bit this year. The weeds took over everything, but we got a lot of food out of here. So, the last thing I really need to do, and I guess this is more of a want than a need, is I do want to pick some of the flowers that are left. Some of the cardinal basil, some of these zinnias. There are a few that are still beautiful, and just make the most of it before it all dies. So I'm thinking here. Let me show you guys. These basil leaves are still pretty healthy, and this is a culinary basil, but it tastes very strong of anise, which is not my favorite. I'm wondering if I dried it, if that would mellow a bit, because I hate to waste all of this basil from a food perspective. So maybe I should just give it a try. I'm contemplating. I started looking at that basil more closely, and there's quite a bit of fungal disease on it. So I think we're just going to enjoy it as a bouquet. But I also found enough flowers to make one last bouquet that's not just the cardinal basil. So I think that's about a wrap here on the 2025 garden. I'm going to get all of this stuff inside, and then I need to come outside and wrap the fig trees. Well, you guys, we went to the store locally and bought burlap to wrap our fig trees in. And y'all, this stuff is a joke. So if you are in need of burlap, don't wait till the last minute like we did. I honestly just kind of forgot that this was a thing I needed to do. But look at this stuff. I don't even know how you call this burlap. I've never seen a burlap that you could see through that wasn't like a fairly tightly woven fabric. But I don't think that's going to do what we need it to as far as protecting our tree goes. So we pulled out our fabric. It's frost fabric. We've used it over like low tunnels before to protect things. And for now, this is what we're going to use. I can't remember if I mentioned earlier, but I think I'm going to have to unwrap the trees when we warm up again, because you're not actually supposed to wrap them until they've gone dormant. And as you can see, these are covered in gorgeous green leaves. But getting down to 24 degrees, it could definitely damage and kill the wood here. And so we're going to wrap them up, even though they're covered in leaves. So it's only going to be for a few days, and then we'll warm back up and I can take it off and let it actually go dormant on its own. But I'm not going to follow all the protocols, I guess, because I'm not doing this permanently for the winter right now. But I've seen where people tie them all up together and then they wrap them in the burlap. So I'm just going to get in here with the frost fabric and wrap. Now, I did see where they said you want to leave a hole in the top for it to be able to breathe. They said that helps let moisture out so you don't end up with too much moisture in here and the fungal issues that we're worried about. Again, I don't know how much that matters right now for me since I am going to unwrap this once the frost ends. Or once the freeze passes. Because like I said, we're going to be back up into the 60s next week with lows in the 40s again. So this is just a brief little interlude for us. Not uncommon weather if we were, say, in February, but certainly not super common for November. Now, one of the things that I did read and I thought it was really interesting was that they said it's really the roots that down like low that you're trying to protect the most. And so they actually said to pull the dirt back a little bit and bury the bottom of your burlap, or in this case, my frost fabric. So I'm going to try and do that. And then this tree is going to be ready to go. You can see I cut all my basils back so it would be easier to do this. I do have some clamps in the garage that I think I'm going to use to try and hold this together. You could always wrap it with something. I saw where somebody did, they just wrapped it with like wire to hold everything together. And we may do that once we get it in burlap for the winter, but for now, I think just a clamp to make sure it doesn't come unwound during the wind is going to be the best option. So, one fig tree down, one more to go. And hopefully they're going to make it through the winter. I am a little nervous about the fact that we planted them in raised beds, but this raised bed is so large that I think it probably has enough thermal mass to keep it warm enough for the roots, especially where we live. We don't get really cold and stay really cold for long periods of time. So I guess it's just an experiment. Here we go, y'all. I found my clamps. So I have it tucked in up here. And I'm just going to kind of fold it over down lower. Clamp it shut. Hopefully that will be enough for now. Well, you guys, we got the other fig tree wrapped up. I got my box of loofahs, and I guess it's just time to say goodbye to the garden. I am definitely going to miss things like the pineapple sage, and for sure, this glorious vine here. I think we're going to have to grow this every year. It just looks like something out of a fairy tale. Y'all are probably tired of hearing me say that, but I just love it so much. So, gotta enjoy it while we can. But let's go inside and I will show you all of what we got today. Well, you guys, here it is, the final harvest of 2025. I'm really happy with this. I don't know that I expected to get this much food out of the garden. I did not have a great tomato year, largely because I let the weeds get away from me. But this is a great harvest of peppers, both the sweet ones and the chili peppers, especially since we harvested so many peppers just about a week and a half ago. This pile of eggplants, I really can't believe how much they grew in that week and a half. But obviously some of them are very small, but then there's some really nice sized ones in there too. So I may have to look for some new recipe ideas to try out the eggplants. The tomatillos were such a surprise, you guys. I can't believe how beautiful these are because those plants look so sad. But I actually have some tomatillos in the freezer, and so I'll be able to make a small batch of tomatillo salsa, which I'm excited about. And the zucchino rampicantes, that's exciting. The potatoes, it's kind of a sad little harvest, but I'm just learning to grow potatoes this year and I'm excited to have anything. And this is like a couple of meals of potatoes that we don't have to buy at the store. So that's very exciting, especially considering that a good portion of those were volunteers from the potatoes I planted in the spring. And then, of course, we have the flowers because they were just going to freeze in the garden. So we might as well bring them in and enjoy them for as long as they'll last. I'm sorry, I keep finding bugs on the flowers and I just keep grabbing them off. I found a stink bug a minute ago. So, anyway, I'm really excited about all of this. I just have to figure out what to do with it all now. But thank you for hanging out with me today, this gardening season, and all the days that you're here. I really appreciate you being here and watching. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.